have worked up some potential alternative recommendations, which will be popped on the screen in a second by Evan. So maybe just before we ask any further questions, and I'm also aware that there is someone who would like to move and someone who would like to second. So hopefully once we get these recommendations up, that might relay any concerns people have. So the main change is the word endorsed. So we've taken out endorses the Kapiti destination story as developed, and instead included notes the progress on. And then we have added in and that further engagement will occur, so that there's been some conversations to date, but that as people have identified and as has also been confirmed by the team, that there will be further conversations that happen. And then the third recommendation C has remained the same. Councillor Coe? Is there someone who would like to second to get them on the table? Okay, yeah. So we'll move into debate then.
Well, there were more questions, and it was actually a question.
You can ask questions anytime, as the Mayor just pointed out. But yeah, there is someone who would like to, or two people who would like to now get this on the table, and we'll enter into debate. So, but if you do have questions, by all means, keep your lights on. That's fine. Oh, yep. Yes, you may. Sorry, I'm just all the lights are a little overwhelming. I'm like, who's? Okay, Councillor Coe, right of introduction.
Thank you. Look, as we've heard, this has been a contentious issue for some decades, and it's something we desperately need to make progress on, because we are losing out to the likes of Martinborough, who is really building a strong brand and attracting a lot of tourists from Wellington. So what is our role here today? We have an independent economic development kotahitanga board that sits outside council and which has a delegated authority to deal with these matters. We are here today, as much as anything, to note the progress that the EDKB and within that the Tourism Advisory Board has made in terms of developing our destination story and our brand. We are not here to say yes or no to any particular brand or story. We are here to note the progress and to make sure that things are progressing in an appropriate manner with appropriate consultation with the community. Branding is very much a science and an art. It is a specialist field, and around this table here, we do not have branding experts. Branding is something that needs to be based on sound research and evidence. It's not a matter of what people personally like or dislike. And having been involved myself in a number of branding exercises, I know how they can go wrong when you start involving people who don't understand the process and who start introducing their personal preferences. We have a solid process that's been worked through with getting to this point. We've done an enormous amount of research. We've done a lot of consultation. There is more consultation to be done. This needs to progress if we are going to, get off the ground. We've got dates booked, launches booked to progress this to the next stage. We need to get this out to the community to get further feedback. So we're not asking you today to endorse anything or approve anything. That's not our role. Our role here is to note the progress. And I am just, for me personally, I'm absolutely delighted to see some progress finally being made. It's something I personally have been pushing for at least 15 years to get something on the table and to get it underway. So I encourage you to support taking this to the next stage, to take it out to the industry. This is an industry matter more so than a community matter. This is something that the industry is going to hang their hat on. The purpose of this brand is economic development. That's industry. It's not designed to make us feel good as a community, but hopefully it is something we will be proud of. But this is something that is going to create jobs, going to bring tourists here. It's going to, and it's designed to do that. It's designed to bring people into Kapiti. Wellington is our biggest market by far. It's low-hanging fruit. We're not tapping into it nearly enough. We need to have something that brings people here from Wellington. We are not big enough to attract international tourists here on our own. We need Wellington's support with that. So let's see what happens when it gets put out there. So I think, there is no fault that can be pointed in terms of the process that has been adopted. This is a case where if you support the process, then the outcome will pop out of that and it will be the right outcome. So unless you have fault with the process, then I encourage you to support these recommendations today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coe. And yeah, I'm aware there are quite a few lights on, so just taking some advice that we will try and just seek 3 speakers for and 3 against, and to avoid repeating new material, contributing new material to the debate. But yeah, hopefully we can get through it quickly. Cam Butler.
Ngā mihi. I'm outside of the voting. Does that mean I'm extra as well? I'm just on page 23 of the agenda, which has got the visual identity. And cool colours, looks really good, but something's really jarring for me. Sand yellow, sun orange, sea green. Is that going to be going out as part of our visual identity, or is that just saying why we've got those colours?
That is just an internal toolkit, which is how we will be using the colours. It's just to give a colour a name. It's describing the name for our use.
I just wanted to make sure
that's not going out.
People have actually been to our beaches and seen the colour of our sand, because it's not yellow. And when we're talking about authenticity, immediately that was the very first thing that struck me when I saw that, was that our sand's not yellow. So it's not right. And I'm not trying to beat down on you guys, because you are doing a lot of work. And as what Liz said, it needs to continue.
It's a colour name.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. And Councillor Coe has just said we are approving the process, not the content. So just, reminding people of that. And now we're not even approving, we're just noting. We're not endorsing, we are just simply noting that progress has been made and that there will be further engagement to inform progress into the future. Councillor Pravanov.
Thank you through the chair, and thank you very much for presenting today and for this paper. I agree that we've been talking about this for a very long time and we need to make some decisions. I do not agree with including the Capital's Coast in that byline, and I think, and hopefully there will be more discussion around that. In terms of the overall concept, and I actually just want to pick up what Mr. Butler was saying, is that has this been considered in terms of the colour schemes, or will they be considered in terms of people who are colourblind? Because seeing those colours there now, they would be terrible for colourblind people, regardless of whether or not it's actually see. As someone who has a son I know very well where that will go.
Is this the time to announce that I'm colourblind?
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm sure. Yeah, well.
Okay, and I'm also just going to remind everyone that we're simply noting the progress. We're not even, we shouldn't really be having conversations about any specific graphics or anything like that. We're getting very down into the detail.
Okay, so my other comment too is that, this is about a destination idea, but I actually think the brand is very separate and are not actually very clear, that those two are not separated well. But I'm just helping
thank you for the
going
comment.
forward on that, okay?
Yeah, thanks for the comment. Okay, Councillor Halliday.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. I did have a couple of questions, but I'll just phrase them into what I was going to talk about. Where to start? 3 months ago, when we did talk about this, it was a conversation deciding whether we're going with Sassy versus Vintage. There was nothing in there about this the Kapiti's coast. This is the first really I've seen of that. And I'm going to just make a real, I guess, word of caution here of the problems if you don't have the community support. I'm just going to say one word, and it's called gateway. Okay, we've been through this process. Okay, and you've got to have everyone, well, not everyone on board with this, but generally you've got to have everyone on board with it. Now, after saying that, fantastic piece of work that's going on here. I don't begrudge that in the slightest. And it's long, long overdue. And we have given both the EDKB and the Tourism Board the mandate to get this done. But I guess you're looking for feedback. This table, yep, I'm hearing that we don't get to sign off on these things. Quite an interesting concept. But we are a barometer for our community. And if the barometer is saying there's a bit of an issue here, please take it on board that there is potentially a bit of an issue here. Otherwise, it could bite us quite nicely further on down the track. My question had been in relation to the destination story, number 4. It has 3 main elements that include creating an identity for Kapiti. So my question was, is this the identity for Kapiti? I appreciate that the capital aspect would be a fantastic marketing approach. I have no problem with that. But is that what our community is going to perceive that we are branding Kapiti as? It's a fine line potentially. I'll go back to what I was going to generally say, though, which is I have pride in living and being on the part of the Kapiti coast. It's grown on me over the period of time that I've been here. I came into this room when I started a business up down here, asking about a tourism strategy, 10 years ago, to be told we don't have one and we're not going to get one. So one of the reasons I got into council was to progress this conversation. And I'm very, very happy with the way it's being progressed and where we're at with it. I'm just not that happy with regards to this particular style of branding that we're talking about. And I do note that we are noting this now and not endorsing it, because I wouldn't want to think that that would be giving the wrong impression that we are necessarily supportive of that particular brand. We've got a little bit of work to do on that, I do think. But generally, though, I don't have any confidence in Wellington NZ, I'm afraid. The track record speaks for themselves. And I do like that we're taking this more in-house and going to be doing this more ourselves. They have a responsibility to we pay for them to market us. And their track record on this is just appalling, using a word of Nigel's there, over the last year. And then reading in the report that last year, things got even worse with regards to the consolidation of their website. After saying that, our comms team and generally all the literature that's coming out has just been on an upward trajectory with regards to quality and with regards to messaging and as such. But, you know, I'm an outsider. I've come in. I'm proud to be living on the Kapiti coast. I've always expressed concern, though, that the Kapiti coast could get portrayed as a suburb of Wellington. And to me, this branding is sort of leading to that. If it's a marketing, you know, a 6-month marketing campaign or even a 12-month marketing campaign, no issue with that at all. But I'm just a little bit concerned that, well, actually not a little bit concerned, I'm quite concerned that we're not actually strengthening the Kapiti brand. We're diluting it. And I just wanted to express that. And I certainly didn't want to take anything away from the work that's gone up to date with regards to this, because I think we're heading in the right direction. So it's good that we've moved that to a note. But I just don't think we've got that last bit quite right there. But that's my opinion. I may not be the professional, but I've been 35 years in this industry. And I also got a bit of an idea from a lot of people in our tourism sector, what they may be thinking about this. And I prefer to see a brand that is Kapiti, not referring to anything to do with Wellington, but marketing-wise, go for gold. Anyway, that's my 10 cents worth. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Halliday. Councillor Warwick.
Oh, I wasn't flashing. I'm not an expert either. And my thing was the same as Martin. It's about the community understanding this is marketing and not identity, because we had that done in Otaki, where we were created a new identity, but no one was asked whether they wanted a new identity. We had Sunny Otaki, and there was a Facebook feed that went out that probably had support of 10 people for the new identity that had been spent a lot of money on, and about 3,000 that supported Sunny Otaki. So I think that's the clarity that needs to be made, is that it's marketing rather than the identity, because we are Sunny Otaki. We might have the other elements that are in our new identity, but we are Sunny Otaki. Most people identify as that, so.
Yeah, I think that's really useful clarification. Thank you, Councillor Warwick. Councillor Wilson?
Yeah, I have a couple of concerns. One is it seems to me that this process might be a little bit disingenuous if, in fact, it's a done deal. And I suspect it is, even though people will say it isn't. And I find this disturbing, the recommendation that we're now just noting this, because all the way leading up to this, councillors who've been reading their order papers were preparing to either endorse this or to not endorse this. To go from noting is effectively endorsing it. That's what that effectively does. It takes away the ability for councillors to say, actually, I think this is horribly wrong. I think the process is wrong. And so I can't support even noting it. It seems impossible that you'd vote against something that's just noting, right? But it's the reason that we're noting it is because we have been taken away the ability to not endorse something that we don't think should be endorsed, assuming that we don't think it should be endorsed. The other reason that the Kapiti Coast District Council should have a significant overlay on this is because this is ratepayer funded. There's been a lot of ratepayer money has gone into the Tourism Advisory Board and Kotahitanga Board. I don't know how many millions, it'd be really interesting to know. But a lot of ratepayer money. And we have a role to make sure that ratepayer money's being spent wisely. So that's what we should be doing in terms of feedback. I had an issue. The reason I don't think this thing works is because it hasn't been done by a Kapiti Coast. The branding hasn't been done by a Kapiti Coast organisation, and I think if you got a Wellington company to come up with a brand for Kapiti, nobody should be surprised that Capital's in there. Nobody should be surprised by that at all, because obviously that's a big part of their thinking on a day-to-day basis. So that doesn't surprise me. Fonterra don't have any problem with Kapiti. They've stolen our identity and have continued to use it for their ice cream, even though they moved their factory away. So my biggest problem with this is that this is this is to mark progress, but I don't think it's progress. I think it's regress. I think it's taking us down an area that, for me personally, doesn't work. But as Liz said, this is not about our personal preferences, and I don't have a personal preference. And it's that it's a bit like I may not know art, but I know what I like, right? And so I don't like the colours, I don't like the slogans, I don't like the cruise into Kapiti, and the Otaki Community Board might want to have a say about that one. But there's a whole bunch of things here that concern me. The biggest single concern is that, and George is already socialising the term, the Capital Coast, used that term a couple of times just in reference to Kapiti. And so that's the danger, is that we've actually got a launch. This stuff is being launched soon. It's not going out to the public to say, hey, what do you think about this? It's not even going out to industry to say, hey, what do you think about it? It's going out to industry to say, look what we've done. Now, the public and industry might go, well, actually, I think it's appalling. Now, then what do you do? So that was why we had an opportunity today to either endorse this, to put a rational lens over it, and endorse it and say, well, maybe we need to have a rethink before we go start launching something if we're not comfortable with it. Because the worst thing in the world is you launch the boat and then find it's got a hole in it. Now you've got a whole sea of troubles, right? So for me, that seems to be the problem, that we are actually, this is a lockdown loaded situation regardless of how it's being portrayed. That's all. Other than that, fantastic.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Wilson. Mayor Halborough.
Yeah, I was just going to say something, but I just want to seek clarification around a couple of points that were just made. I just wanted to find out whether this is funded through the general rate or through our targeted business rate?
We have a targeted business rate.
Okay, that's good to have that clarification. The other thing about it being locked and loaded, we did hear in answer to one of the other questions that there is going to be further engagement with stakeholders. Would there be a chance on the basis of that feedback for any of this to change?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll just make my contribution to debate. To me, this takes us out of a bit of a catch-22, where we don't really want to endorse something unless the stakeholders approve of it, and they don't really want to endorse it unless we know we approve of it. What we're doing by approving these motions is saying we respect the work of our Kotakitanga Economic Development Board and the work of the Tourism Advisory Board in doing this work, and for them to go out to stakeholders who it's for to ask them what they think. And what we're doing by changing it to noting is saying we think we should do that step first before we endorse it. And I think that's really important because, as Councillor Coe pointed out before, if we don't get that buy-in, then we do need to rethink it, because you will not get any benefit if you don't get the buy-in of stakeholders. So as long as I know that we will shift depending on what that feedback comes back with, I'm happy to support this today. And that's what I've heard today. So, so I hope I've got that right, because if I have, I'm happy to support that today.
Yeah, I think Chris is happy to confirm that that analysis is correct, yeah.
Yes, I can confirm that where you got to and the process we're proposing is correct.
Great, thank you. Kim Tahiwi.
Kia ora, just something really short and sweet. So I just want to acknowledge the expertise of the advisory board, and I know we had some iwi members that sat in that discussion who have extensive knowledge in tourism on an international scale, so that was good. I understand that this campaign, and putting the name aside, I understand that this is the start of something, so the importance of this for me is not so much what we've got on the paper. It's about the journey that's going to sit behind it and the team that's going to drive it behind the scenes to get ongoing community engagement. So not only do we need to get community sign-off, whatever you want to call it, but we also need our local and smaller business to start to buy into this for it to work. So if I was looking at the face of it, and I think I said this before, is that initially I don't see a Te Ao Māori lens on it. And what I mean by that, and if I think to what our public speaker said, is that international market. So if I can just generalise, and I have no expertise in this at all, so just my humble opinion. If I think about Aotearoa as being the clean green and that's what people come for, that's great. That's what people come for. But if you add into that the intrinsic connection that Māori have to the whenua, that's a value add. And so it's when I go overseas, I don't want to buy McDonald's. I want to buy whatever's there. You know, I want to experience the culture. And to me, this is just the starting gate. And behind this sits a whole body of work to actually get people on board, so that this is a door. This is the door where the whole of Kapiti can use to advertise themselves, and we can do it collectively. So that's the importance of this journey for me. Personally, I grew up with Kapiti Coast, but I'm not an expert. I don't know the numbers, so I don't want to sit in this forum and go, right, change it, because I don't know the numbers and the reasons behind that. But yes, just acknowledging the work that you've done, acknowledging the expertise, and looking forward to the rest of the journey. And I think you touched on it. It does have to be a journey. This is not it. This is just the start. And that's all. Kia ora.
I've just got a comment and a couple of questions. So I actually agree with everyone who's spoken, in particular Marty and Nigel and Kim. there's already been a massive amount of what's the right word? Capital Coast is actually it's a hospital in the hut and marketed quite heavily. So when I think Capital Coast, it's Capital Coast DHB. So I'm not sure how that sits with this new branding. I've got a couple of questions, and yes or no is fine, probably for Darren and Bronte actually. Has there been any engagement with Chamber of Commerce? In terms of moving forward, having what you've heard today from the councillors, made any impact in terms of going back and changing the strategy? And thirdly, is this a branding or is this an identity? Because I agreed very much with Martin, fantastic marketing, short-term marketing campaign, being 6 months, 12 months, hit the market, as an underlay to an identity. And I think that's really important because when this goes out to the public, we don't identify as Wellington. We identify anything but Wellington. So if those three little questions could be answered.
Sorry, I just want to.
I rolled that all into a big sentence.
Yeah, I just want to step in and say that we will, of course, be feeding back the conversation to the Economic Development Kotahitanga Board in the conversation today, noting some of the earlier conversation about. We had noted that this has gone through a process that they've been involved in, and ultimately they've sat across with the Tourism Advisory Board. You have the chair of the Tourism Advisory Board here listening to the conversation today, and I think it would only be fair for us to be able to take that conversation back to the table and to think about its impact before coming back to you. What I can say is that I think our intention of engaging you through the process to date has been that we're interested in your opinions, and we have incorporated your feedback today. So today we've heard new feedback that hasn't been provided previously, and so of course we will be looking to see how that fits into that alongside the feedback we'd expect to get from our tourism community.
Deputy Mayor Kirby. Oh wait, actually, yes. Sorry, Darren, did you want to? Yeah.
So in terms of parties, we've had discussions with a number of parties through this journey, and we've recently heard that the Chamber have raised concerns in terms of consultation and discussion through the process, so that we've reached out to speak to the Chamber and have further discussion with them. We want to make sure that, as we said before, that everyone is part of this process. In terms of, as Chris said, we have heard this feedback today, we've heard the feedback previously, and we have taken on board during the journey. So we do want to make sure that we understand that, we can see how that fits. You know, sometimes there's things that we can incorporate, sometimes there's things that it's good to have, but it doesn't change the direction, I suppose. In terms of the third, there's three. George, do you want to speak to that?
Isn't that identity? Because I think.
I'd just like to endorse what Kim said earlier, that this is a journey that we build people into, and you have to put your mark down somewhere and start, and that's what we're trying to do with this thing. You then start to bring in the industry, and you bring in wider industry, but we need to start with the tourism industry. But fundamentally, the brand that we're settling on is Kapiti. That's it. The Capital's Coast is, as has been suggested here, is a marketing line for tourism. We'll use that sometimes, we won't use it all times. But if you look at the representations in your papers, you'll find Kapiti is the strong identity that we're using. And in the research we did, we found that by using Kapiti and not Capital Coast, not using Kapiti Coast has been used historically, it became more inclusive to a wider range of the industry, and they were happy with that. In fact, we ran a series of meetings around this table, and people said, we're glad that you're settling on Kapiti as the main brand. So that's the brand that we're strengthening here. We're using the Capitals Coast as a byline that can be used in tourism-related businesses. It's not going to brand every member of the community having to use that at all. It's simply a positioning statement that's used there. But I want to reinforce the brand is Kapiti. It's strong. It's got good representation around the country. It's well known. That's the one we're running with.
Great, thank you. And sorry for missing that opportunity for the response to questions. Councillor Kirby.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a brief question, recommendation 3, which I'm very aware that I've just seconded. Can you give us some information around the next steps? Because I know we've booked in, there's a destination launch in less than 2 weeks' time on the Tuesday evening, on the 20th. And so can you just confirm that my understanding is that's a soft launch, not a hard launch, so that's not going public, that's a launch with our key stakeholders, is that correct?
That is correct, yes. Tuesday is a soft launch with the tourism industry. We're bringing them together to show them this for the first time and receive their feedback and talk about the next steps, which they are going to help shape.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, really good answer. Thank you. Next up, Councillor Spires.
Thank you. I was debating whether to speak or not, but I just wanted to voice my very disapproval of Kapiti destination story. It should be the Kapiti Coast destination story, and I'm not a fan of the Capital Coast at all. So I'm very disappointed it's not Kapiti Coast, because that's who we are.
Thanks, Councillor Spires. Councillor Pravanov.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair, just a very quick question in relation to the soft launch. Is the Chamber of Commerce invited to it?
The soft launch is going to be with the tourism industry at the quarterly industry function that we bring them together every quarter of the year, which is next Tuesday. There's an event the following week, which is on the 20th of August, which they are very much invited to, which is the release with the wider business community, which has more of a focus on launching the new business websites that we have stood up to increase the visibility, to give us a platform to tell our destination story.
So what you're suggesting is that they're not going to be able to provide input for the following week?
We'll be following up with the feedback. However, the event is to launch the website, which will tell the destination story. It provides a platform too. We are still going to be using the feedback that we received from the week prior. I don't think much is going to change in a week, but we will be working on the feedback before we, yeah.
Can I just note that the reference to the tourism industry is that we've established a tourism industry cluster, just like there's a food and beverage cluster, just like there's a tech cluster, and it's for business and industry that want to come together for benefit for them. There's also a startup ecosystem, and the membership of those different clusters changes depending on what the topic is and its purpose. So the Chamber is involved in work we're doing, and they've had input to a lot of what we're doing. So I just want to put that on the table. I'm feeling a little concerned that maybe there's not clarity around what the purpose of the clusters is. So we can send that round to you so you've got that information. And it's not intended that every man and their dog attends every cluster group. They're quite targeted, and that's why they've been segregated out. So we have just been talking to the Chamber about there being a professional services cluster and their role in that. So we wouldn't expect everybody from the tech cluster to be in that cluster. So it's quite a purposeful thing. So we're not excluding people, they're just quite targeted. And the purpose of the tourism cluster is to get our tourism entities together so that they can work together. And they can, from the grassroots up, start to shape and form and grow, because we are small. and it's through coming together that we can make magic happen. So I just want to be really clear, because I'm a little concerned that we're leaning into one entity that's part of our ecosystem. Because you may well have asked me, where's the Māori business network? Are they coming to these clusters? And I'm happy to respond to that offline if anyone's got any queries about who's attending. Thank you.
All right, I'm not seeing any more contributions to debate. So right of reply, Councillor Coe.
We've had an interesting discussion around this. It was always going to be contentious. Look, I just want to sum up by saying we are here today to make sure that a robust process has been followed in developing the destination story and the brand, and in terms of community engagement with that brand, well, industry engagement with that brand. You know, the biggest stakeholder in this whole process is the tourism industry. You know, we will be seeking further input from them. This is not a community process. This is funded by an ED targeted rate. This is very much about economic development and boosting our tourism numbers. It's not a community project. We're not here to decide on the brand. It's not our role to do that. It is our role to make sure that due process has been followed, that there is research and evidence behind what's being proposed, and there's been sufficient consultation and feedback. We have had opportunities to give feedback at prior workshops and today. That feedback will be taken into account, but not necessarily agreed with or adopted, because it's not our role. We are not the signing off authority on the Kapiti brand and the destination story. So I'm sure that the team here today have listened to what has been said. They will take that into account. They will be doing the, you know, I think it's really important that we take the work that's been done to date out to the community and get some feedback. Let's progress this. So nothing that we are signing off on today is going to imply that this is a done deal or a finished project. It's an evolutionary process, and you know the whole Capitals Coast thing is more a messaging type of thing as opposed to the brand. The brand that's being proposed is Kapiti, with a capital K, and the K is going to be used strategically, you know, as part of that whole brand. So it's K for Kapiti is a key part of that whole thing. It will evolve over time, you know, and the messaging around Capitals Coast will evolve over time, I'm sure, as we mature as a tourism destination. At the moment, we are not a mature tourism destination, far from it. So let's get the ball rolling, take this out to the people who have the most to gain out of a strong tourism brand, see what they think, adapt it if necessary, and just get some momentum going. So I really encourage you to support the journey of this project, to take it to the next steps rather than stall it and then what? Don't know. It goes into a big vacuum. I'm not sure what, but let's just keep the ball moving. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coe. So that's been moved and seconded. All those in favour? Aye.
I'm just going to raise a point of order about these, because just by changing a word endorse to note, it has completely skewed the intention. And if you read it, what it says.
It hasn't. We've taken advice on that, and we're fine with just creating this new set of recommendations. They've been moved and seconded. We've debated them for the last 45 minutes to an hour.
Right. Well, I'll vote against it, and
okay, we've got a point of order
division
from Mayor Holborough.
I'll move a point of order. Completely unacceptable to be making a point of order during voting. Once it's put to the vote, you can't have a vote aye and then take a point of order and then.
I didn't. It was too late.
Yeah, it was too
Okay,
late.
well,
Indeed.
It wasn't a point of order.
Indeed.
So all those in favour? Aye. Against? No. Carried. Anyone want to call a division? Yeah. Okay. So all those in favour, please raise your hand.
It might be easy to do those against.
Oh, those against then, yeah. So sorry, raise your hand if you're
Those against? So against, I have Councillor Cooper and I have Councillor Wilson.
Any others against? Okay, all those in favour?
Okay, so in favour, I have Councillor Coe, Councillor Hanford, the Mayor, I've got Councillor Coford, I've got Councillor Halliday. Sorry, I'm looking down for names. I've got Councillor Warwick. I have Councillor Profanoff. I have the Deputy Mayor. I have Councillor Spires, and I have Kim Tahiwe. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'm counting 10 for and 2 against.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Bronte, Darren, and George for bearing with us. And apologies, it maybe took, longer than, But go and enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you everyone for bearing with us through that process. Okay, one more paper to go. Okay, can we draw your attention back? It would be good to get all wrapped up by 12:30 if we can. All right, hello. Oh, we're waiting still?
Oh, sorry, okay. We're just going to speak mostly. If Sean doesn't get to talk.
It's okay. Is it just Sean?
It's just Sean.
Okay. All right, we're going to move to item 9.3, everyone. So contracts under delegated authority. We've got Sean to introduce the paper. I would also just like to remind elected members that we did ask for questions ahead of time, specifically related to this report, because there are, I believe, 9 contracts included. Or even slightly more. So we'll hope to, and we weren't also provided with any questions in advance of the meeting. So Sean, over to you to introduce the paper.
Thank you,
and
Madam
then
Chair. If I just take the paper as read, and again, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, do we have any questions from the table? Okay, Councillor Wilson, but we've got a mover and Councillor Kirby.
Just one question, Sean, just around the McLean Park construction. I'm assuming you're comfortable with the cost and variations and what have you?
I'm not aware of any variations to date, but the cost, as per the document, we had a independent quantity surveyor review that, and they're very close in terms of the actual contracted price, so we're comfortable with that.
Yeah. The only reason I ask that is a lot of people raise it. They raise it a lot about the costs, etc., but it's all in train. And
yeah, I guess the nature of that work, it's not just straightforward concrete placement, which maybe people might just assume it's just chucking some concrete in there. There's a fair bit of complexity to those bowls and skateboard things, so it does cost a little bit.
The half pipes and quarter pipes,
Right,
yeah.
right.
Okay, so Deputy Mayor Kirby would like to move. I'm not seeing any other questions. So is there a seconder for this paper, the recommendations? Mayor Holborough, right of introduction, Councillor Kirby. Great. Any debate?
I'd just like to briefly say
that
just reflects the variety of outstanding projects we have underway, this paper. It's really good to have a look through what's been happening in this space. So congratulations to the team.
Yeah. Total call. Councillor Wilson.
yeah, I'll just add some weight to that too, lest people think that I'm just a negative presence at the table. they
Thanks for sharing the love, showing the love.
this
Yeah.
a lot of these what a lot of these projects do is what they reflect a community need and wants and provision. So this is
Nice.
just kind of the point I was making it with the last one. And what it does show is it shows that that Kapiti, there is a lot of progress. There is a lot of stuff happening. It's really easy for the public to go, oh, they don't do anything, unless it's like a library or a swimming pool or whatever. Most of what we do, most of our spend, this is for the public audience, goes underground. You don't even see it. You know,
Yeah.
pipes and that sort of stuff's not sexy, but if you don't have it, you've got big trouble, right? Oh, well, Sean thinks it's sexy, right? Obviously.
Thanks, Councillor Wilson. And love the positivity. Councillor Halliday.
Yeah, look, it's actually, it's a question, apologies, but number 5, sorry, the figures didn't marry up. We got 9 tenders received ranging from 1.9 million to 5.1 million, but the contract was given was 640,000 odd.
Yeah, so that one, often there will be separable elements to the contract itself, and the provision of the tender through negotiation with the preferred contractor, you might look at removing or reducing the scope of the work, and so that's why sometimes, not that often, you'll get a final price that is different from the one that was submitted as part of the tender.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Not seeing any more lights on, right of reply. Great, all those in favour? Aye, against, that is carried. Thank you, Sean. And now we have confirmation of minutes of the 4th of July. Anyone want to move that there are true and accurate record of the meeting? Councillor Wilson, thank you. Anyone want to second? Deputy Mayor Kirby, great. All those in favour? Aye, against, that is carried. Oh, I'm so sorry. Did you? No. The time's passed. Oh, may have done that on purpose. No, can't say that. All right, is there someone who would like to close us in karakia? Oh, thank you, Kim. Kia ora.
Kia ora tātou. Kia tātou katoa, te atawhai o tō tātou arakia i hukaraiti, me te haroha o te atua, me te whiwhinga tahitanga, ki te wairua tapu, ake, āmeni.
Great, thank you everyone. We got there in the end. No, I'm sorry if sometimes I got a bit confused and a bit fatigued, but no, we did well.